New York Herald Tribune. New York.
Get out of here!
Oh!
Even today, French New Wave cinema, well, it's seen as, what's the word?
Cool.
Yes, that's the word. Wait, who was that? And I wonder why it's so cool.
Dunno. The suits?
Lach cigarette?
The two fingers up to convention.
Our chosen topic for this video essay is based on a quote by Jean-Luc Godard, written about the Cannes Film Festival of 1959.
For the first time, none of the nation's most venerated directors have been selected to represent France at Cannes. Instead, the films were chosen by new, young directors. Godard's friends, Marcel Camus, Allegheny, and Francois Truffaut, for example, signalling a fundamental change in French cinema.
For the first time,
Writes Godard,
a youthful film has been designated by those in charge to show the world the true face of French cinema. The face of French cinema has changed.
We shall be looking at how and why this change came about, particularly referencing Godard and his first feature film, Breathless, or a bout de souffle,
No. A bout de souffle.
of 1960. Firstly, let's go back to 1948. Gonna need a pair of these. And take a look at Alexandre Austruc's crucial essay, The Birth of the New Avant-Garde. The camera pen, or the Camera-Stylo. Look at its influence on the Young Turks, as Godard and his friends were known. These young critics wrote for the Cahiers magazine, and the polemic writings were dedicated to overthrowing the cinematic old guard, chiefly referred to by them as the cinema du papa.
Get out of here, you crusty old pensioner!
Leave me alone!
Astruc's essays is often likened to a manifesto of the New Wave, in which he calls for a cinema of authors. Like with essays or novels, Astruc saw film as a form through which artists could express their innermost thoughts and obsessions, saying that cinema could become
means of writing just as flexible and subtle as that of the written language.
Just as the novelist is the author of his books, so the director is the author of his films. The novelist writes with a pen, the director writes with a camera. Astruc's words lay the foundation for the notion of cinematic auteurism, so associated with the New Wave. Post-World War II, there was an influx of Hollywood films, and the Young Turks noticed that the directors, such as Hitchcock and Wells, showed identifiable stylistic traits, which was hugely influential, and resulted in Truffaut's idea of
l'art politique des auteurs.
Also, these young critics belong to a generation who are mad about film. Having come out of the bleak landscape of post-war France, we found a passionate, young, film-going generation for whom the cinema was much more than a mere escape. Unsurprisingly, the lush Hollywood films held huge appeal.
Hey! We got him, Lord!
Good job, Sarge. You take it from here.
What? Got all this precious intense love of cinema, or cinephile, as a
nostalgia for cinema that no longer exists.
with,
Breathless.
or
A bout de souffle.
clearly recognizable as a homage to American monogram B pictures.
But the film's protagonist
We see him,
is also seen in clearly imitating Humphrey Bogart and a kind of homage to the great man.
and I love Humphrey Bogart.
Me too. It is thanks to cinephile we find a great rapport between our critics turned filmmakers and the youthful French audience.
Interestingly,
Those in
now
high places saw French culture as being under attack from Hollywood.
Wait, they got him. So, the French government stepped in with the Francs to help first-time filmmakers, which was good news for our young critics who aspired to make films for their generation.
That's wonderful news.
Sure is.
In the seminal text of 1954's A Certain Tendency of French Cinema, or Une certaine tendance du cinéma français, Franco's Truffaut marks the tradition of quality, or
Tradition de la quality.
filmmakers as stuffy and outdated, signaling a
Oh.
major shift in the Auteur debate. He passionately attacked some of France's most established top directors and screenwriters. What's that? Is that C4?
What bastard! Them for being conservative and unexciting with their dull adaptations of literary classics. He believed that it was the individual creative vision that makes the director the true author of the film, with a distinctive style and consistent themes and aesthetic ideas running throughout the films. Interestingly, the directors closest to the heart of the French New Wave
Were in fact quite skeptical of categories and definitions. They believed the New Wave was about shared friendships and affinities, a common revolt against films and practices of their predecessors.
Some of the choices embraced by the New Wave directors or auteurs were dictated by economic necessity as much as by ideology. However, far from being despondent by any lack of money, they identified low production costs with artistic freedom. Unable to afford costly studios, they shot films in the streets of Paris. They used natural light and ambient sound, with a naturalistic tone and unknown young actors with the ability to improvise.
And these choices gave rise to a changed relationship to reality and capturing more of truth. Godard, particularly, had a great need and desire to draw close to reality and truth itself, like the Italian neo-realists who they greatly admired. And this phenomenon of New Wave filmmaking was about more than just new modes of production and techniques. Indeed, this search for truth meant breaking down barriers that divided documentary and fiction, and as Godard said, creating
A new relationship between fiction and reality.
A Bout de Souffle has a striking documentary style. Godard's exploration of modern reality, expressed by its great need and desire to draw close to it, begins with a place or location. Here,
In the streets of Paris, the scene in which the camera follows Michelle and Patricia up and down the Champs-Élysées, with all the ambient noise and confusion and people and rhythms of the French capital city, we can see that there is a reality to the characters shown in the historical moment in time that the film was made, EA 1960. Godard is also interested in the existential and social climate that surrounds his characters, with long, digressive discussions between them. For example, in Patricia's hotel room. Here, they wonder about the different ways in which men and women think and behave, showing the intertwined layers of fiction and reality at the core of the film. Techniques not found in
Tradition de la qualité.
Turn in spontaneous and improvised performances by Jean-Paul Belmondo and Jean Seberg, rather than being a mere representation of the script which exists before the filmmaking process begins.
right, listen here, Sonny. Godard, like Basil before him, believed in the essential truth of cinema. And this is what lies at the heart of his cinema and at the philosophical core of the French New Wave.
Photography is truth. The cinema is the truth, 24 times a second.
With French New Wave cinema came an unprecedented changing of the generational guard, as one generation of directors eclipsed the predecessors, bringing with them new cinematographers, actors and scriptwriters. As so joyously observed by Godard in Cannes in 1959, the face of French cinema had indeed changed. The Young Turks had broken through.
And taken over. A cinema of authors.
As a critic, I only consider myself a filmmaker.
Tradition de la qualité.